What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's time for live full-time reaction to Celtic 6, Livingston 0. I'm joined tonight by Chris and Declan to go over the game. You know the drill. You can ask your questions and get your comments in a live chat box below, and we'll try and pick out the best ones as we go through. Declan, today, a slow start, and you just had a feeling that it was going to take the same course as so many games we've seen this season, but no doubt that we finally found our flow in the game and played really well in the end.
Yeah, it just seemed to click all over the park today, Paul. I thought as a team performance, it was really, really decent, and we broke the lines well in the first half. Two really good goals. Maybe a wee bit fortunate with the ball over from Moy. It takes a wee bit of deflection, but it was outstanding all day, and it just seemed to click all over the park. And I thought it was a real show of togetherness in the team that's probably been missing all season, and it was a good performance and a good victory.
Chris, we went back to 4-2-3-1 today. James Forrest on the right-hand side, Mohamed El-Younousi on the left. And I think that really helped us today. I think we look a lot more balanced, a lot more natural width, better movement in the final third of the pitch in that formation, and with Forrest back in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're going to go 4-2-3-1, Paul, that is definitely the best formation for the players that Kennedy selected today. And you could really see the difference that Forrest makes and how much we've actually missed him this year. His willingness to come inside, his movement off the ball, he's always been incredibly intelligent footballer that way. And he's already a step ahead of the defender. And you can see that's exactly how the first goal was made. He comes in off the touchline, plays a pass into Turnbull into Eddie. Eddie plays a beautiful ball. Let's be honest, Forrest sclaffed his finish, but it ends up in the net to make it 1-0. And there was times where Forrest had drifted all the way over to the left-hand side, and El-Younousi would come inside, and you could just see they were just... The Livingston defence overall was a shambles today, but it was superb to see Forrest start and score again, and he played really, really well today, obviously, until he went off unexpectedly in the second half.
Yeah, Declan, let's be honest, there's been times this season watching the games in the house, obviously, particularly these games that are now effectively dead rubbers, where you could be forgiven for drifting away, and in that first 20-25 minutes, it was a strange game. There'd been a lot of stoppages in it, a bit scrappy, but after that first goal for James Forrest, we really did seem to up the tempo.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be one of those typical afternoons we watch, Paul, that we just, we don't really get into a rhythm of things. As you say, it was scrappy. It was a bit stop-start. It looked as if we were kind of playing into Livingston's hands. They were right in their faces, to be fair to them, for the first 20-25 minutes. But, once we get into the swing of things, it continued on, and certainly in the second half, we've maybe been at times this season been at fault for two halves being very different to each other, whereas we kept that consistency up, which was nice to see. It still shows that there's a good group of players there that have been underperforming all season, which is a real shame for us that we get a performance like that so late on in the season. But overall, Saturday, 3:00 kickoff, 6 goals at home and a clean sheet. Not really much more else you can ask for, is there?
Absolutely. Chris, Livingston almost went man for man with us a bit. They had Alan Forrest and Pittman up against Brown and McGregor, but we just overran them in the game. And as I said to Declan, for that first goal, we really just seemed to click into gear and really take control of the game.
Yeah, I actually applaud Livingston for wanting to play so aggressively. Like, there's not many teams that come to Celtic Park over the last few years and look to go man for man and try to match us. But as the game wore on, Brown and McGregor just began to absolutely dominate the midfield. And, for the second goal, I've been screaming out for Taylor to be more aggressive all season. He actually lifts his head and plays in a beautiful ball for El-Younousi, who just absolutely tortured that Livingston defence today. Granted, to Declan's point, it took a deflection, but that width, that's what you can get from the 4-2-3-1 if you've got players who are willing to rotate through those positions, and it actually drags the defence all over the place. We did it to Rangers a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, we weren't as ruthless then as we were today, but that just shows you, with the correct players in the correct system, we've still got good enough quality to do a lot of damage. And let's be honest, we haven't done that nearly enough this year. That ruthlessness in front of goal is what's been sorely missing. And I mean, just thinking in the 5 games that Kennedy's been in charge, and I know it's a small sample size, but we've scored 11, conceded 1, won 4, and drawn 1. I'm not saying he should get the job or anything like that, but at least he's brought a level of consistency. And I'm pleased to see us not conceding and leaking goals from corners and set pieces, other than obviously the goal against Rangers, which unfortunately is what it is.
Declan, a really similar build-up to the second goal today, to that goal against Rangers. And El Yunusi running in behind, so important, because we've got a lot of players who like to come towards the ball, but from time to time you need someone to go in behind. And as Chris said, it's a good ball be Taylor, but El Yunusi's run and then cross makes it. We get a bit of luck, and Turnbull's got an empty net, but running in behind, so important.
Yeah, isn't it? Again, it's something we've missed all season, not having natural width. I know we went back to that 4-4-2 diamond in December, which, you know, was used to kind of narrow our playing midfield especially, but with the lack of James Forrest in the team, we never had a natural winger. Again, another disappointment of the January transfer window, that not bringing in an actual right winger, but we knew James Forrest still wasn't going to be up for selection for a long time. And obviously we've had Christie playing out there, and I know Christie can kind of play all over the park, but he's definitely not a right winger, and it just showed today by playing natural width what you can do. And you know, if you give wingers the opportunity like that, they'll break the lines and they'll make those runs in behind. And you know, credit to Greg Taylor, because it was a really good pick out. And I know I said earlier it was a wee bit of deflection, but Elyounoussi making sure he's a man in there, he's breaking that line, he's getting into that. He's the man that's there to receive the ball and be at the right place at the right time, as was David Turnbull for his goals. So the credit to that. And you know, just really looking to get in behind and getting into the spaces is what we want to see.
Aye, absolutely. I think the wingers, as we've touched on already, help us so much. Just having that natural width in the game. I thought both of them were really, really good today, and we'll come to Elyounoussi in a bit more detail shortly. But Chris, we went into that second half, and I mean, I was almost shocked to be entertained watching this Celtic team this season. That the first 10-15 minutes of that second half were almost top gear. I mean, McCrory in the Livingston goal made 3 or 4 brilliant saves. We scored the third goal, then we get the fourth and fifth. It could have been 7 or 8-0 by the time we got to 60 minutes. It was much more like the Celtic that you want to sit down and watch.
Absolutely. Like, that's what we've been crying out for all season. And going into the second half, I was thinking, is this going to be, to Declan's point, the Jekyll and Hyde Celtic that we've seen so often this season, where they do reasonably well for one half and then there's nothing in the second, or they're poor in the first half and then they do enough to scrape a 1-0, 2-1. So to see us have a 15-minute spell like that was fantastic. Let's just be honest. Like, we've not had a lot of things to get motivated and excited about, but that was absolutely superb. And yeah, McCrory could probably feel like, how did I played really well, but the ball beat me 6 times today. Like, he did not have a bad game. And to be honest, he's probably the only reason it's not 8 or 9-0, which, to be honest, on the balance of play, we had 70% possession. We had 18 shots, 11 on target, and we scored 6 goals. That's a 55% success ratio. So, like, we haven't been that ruthless. I said it earlier. We have not been that ruthless all season. So it was fantastic to see. And isn't it so great that we've got a player that can actually take a dead ball in Turnbull? Like, his set piece, and I thought he was actually quietly superb today. Like, you wouldn't think, you know, like Declan, he got the goal, he made another goal, he was involved. It's just like that's what he is truly capable of. And for once, I was actually okay with him being substituted at the 66-minute mark versus the whole 75, 80-minute mark. But yeah, brilliant 15-minute spell.
Declan, you could argue it's been coming, because I think the general level of performance since John Kennedy took over has been better. We've just been lacking in front of goal. The decision making has been really poor. So you could argue it was coming, a performance like this, and it really did click, if you like, today, and we took the chances, and it's just so good. I know it's a dead rubber, and I know that the actual league campaign's done and dusted, but it's just nice to be entertained.
it is just nice to be entertained. And last week, I know it was Falkirk and they're two divisions below us, but something like 40 odd shots that we had in the game. So it was clear to see that it was there that we were making chances. It's something that coaches in the modern day always like to be able to see that your team's making those chances. And I think today it just clicked and we took those chances. At this point in the season, it's gone. So players will play with a bit more freedom. But that doesn't take away from scoring 6 goals at home, because it's the first time we've did it since we played Reykjavik in the Champions League qualifiers. And for ourselves, as fans, it's been something that we've lacked all season. And to try and finish the last few games in a bit of a flurry, we've still got a Scottish Cup game to play for, which this performance and result sets us up nicely for next week. So long may this continue until the end of the season, just to try and, quietly put this horror show of a season to rest.
I agree. And I think you could argue as well that Livingston obviously played with a bit more freedom there in the top 6, which is probably their goal for the season. And they did take us on maybe more than they would ordinarily. But Chris, the standout today for me was Mohamed El Yunusi, and we talked about him last weekend with regards to a permanent transfer. I mean, that sort of performance today, he's been in and out the team this season, but he's still put up an incredible amount of goals when you consider how poor we've performed this season. But I thought today was absolutely fantastic.
He was the best player on the park by an absolute country mile. And just look at the last 4 games, he scored 4 goals. Granted, he had 2 today. The goal against Rangers, he reads the fact that Eddie goes out wide, he gets himself into a brilliant position, and he's scoring with a diving header. I mean, if you're getting that from a winger, just even as an isolated moment, that's superb. He came off the bench last week, and I would like to give Kennedy some credit. I think he recognised that even though it was Falkirk last week, the 3 number 10s was never going to work, right? So I'm glad he went back to the 4-2-3-1 with the right personnel today. El Yunusi came off the bench, scored a beautiful chip goal. His second goal today was almost a mirror image of that goal. But right before he scored his first goal of the game, McCrory had one of those outstanding saves. And then shortly after that, another one from Brown. But his goal I think he had a goal like that against Leon from probably even further out. Was it Leon in the Europa League? Leo, sorry, my apologies. Yeah, brilliant, right? He's more than capable of those first-time curling shot goals. And he was everywhere today. And he was ruthless in front of net too. And it was just really, really great to see it. If that's the El Yunusi that we could have on a consistent basis, then I'd be more than willing for Celtic to pay the money for him.
I've always liked him. I think there's a lot there. He's intelligent. He has played in a number of positions. I think that's probably to his detriment, the fact that he can play in a number of positions because he's been moved about. And Declan, I don't think we've seen him often enough in the correct position. Yeah. And obviously a team that's underperforming. So you can see his qualities. He's good in the air as well. Obviously an eye for goal. His 2 finishes today, different. Again, the dink, the same as last week with the second one, but the first one is an absolutely brilliant strike. Great technique. He's got a bit of everything. If it is £5 million, would you pay it?
100%. If you're willing to pay £5 million for Albi Ayeti, I don't see why you don't pay it for Mohamed El Yunusi, who's a player we know so well. Having had him for 2 seasons, as you say, he's played in a lot of different positions this season, which has probably been his detriment, Paul, because I've seen him in behind as a number 10, seen him play up front, and even when he's not been playing at his natural position on the left-hand side, he's still contributed assists and goals. So that is a mark of a good football player. And I think under a good new setup and system, if we stick with the same formation week in, week out, I think it would flourish again. That's his first full season with his injury problems kind of hampered him towards the end, which is a shame. But he's a top quality player, no doubt about that. And if you're willing, as I say, to pay £5 million for Albi Ayeti, offer the money to Southampton just now, because he's a good player. But I'm sure there will be other suitors that will fancy him. And that's why it's a bit of business we should try and get done as soon as possible, because again, with everybody that's going to be leaving, he's a good bit of consistency to have in there, and he's a quality player that, going forward, I think you can even still probably make money off in the coming years.
I think if he is available, for that sort of price, there is going to be other clubs looking at him. But I think you make a really good point in that. I think, Chris, that he is the type of player who would thrive under the correct management in a Celtic team. We're going to come and talk about the managerial situation before the end of the video. But I think under the right manager, Mohamed El Younousi could be excellent for us.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. You've seen in flashes at different times where he's fully fit and he's fully engaged and he's in the right type of system. He's got a superb first touch. He can beat a man. He can cross the ball. He can finish, and he scored a few goals with headers as well, which is like he is really at times the whole package. And you do wonder, with the right type of modern day man manager to just push his buttons and motivate him the right way, he could just be absolutely lethal in the Scottish Premiership. And he scored goals in Europe too. That's the other thing. Like, he's done it at all levels. So I wouldn't have any hesitation about paying money for a player like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Declan James Forrest went off. I don't think anybody wanted to see that, because we've just talked about his impact since he's come back into the team. Absolutely huge for us, and obviously pivotal next week. Hopefully he's fit. I don't know what the issue is. I've yet to see anything after the game because we've just come straight on. So hopefully he's okay. If James Forrest is okay, is that the team that you would start next week with?
Yeah, I think that's our strongest team till the end of the season now, in that system as well. Goalie, arguably, I think a lot of people would still say that they want to see Barkas get back in. And
made a couple of good saves today, though, to be fair.
He did make a good couple of saves, and to be fair as well, Mohamed El Younousi post-match praised him for being so calm with the ball at his feet, which has been something we all know Scott Bain can do. So we'll take it away from Scott Bain today. He had a good enough game. He wasn't tasted out too much. He did make a really good save, I think, in the first half, if I can remember right. But yeah, I think that is your strongest team going forward. I'm not really too fussed in the goalkeeper situation just now if you play like that every week. But I think that is just your strongest team going forward. And I think it's a team that can certainly hurt sides. And I think next week it would be the team I would go for. Whether or not, if Jamesy doesn't and he misses out, Christie could slot in there as being effective, I don't know. Because I thought Forrest was really direct today. And I know people maybe say, oh, he kind of fluffed his shot a bit, but again, he was the right man at the right time to be in there to get the shot away. So that's what's important, but hopefully he's okay. And it's clear to see how much I've missed him this season. He's a big player for us. And again, not just in his position as a natural right winger, we've missed that all season. So I hope he's okay, and I hope he can play next week.
Just want to bring in a comment for Michael McCafferty here. Kennedy confirmed it was precautionary with Forrest. It did look like that. I didn't see the incident. Didn't see the incident, but he did walk off, and you could tell they were just protecting him, given he's been out for such a long time. I'm going to bring up one more comment from Michael. Celtic TV talking up Eddie Howe before the match. Chris, now, how much do you read into that? Because I think if the deal was off, then there's no chance the club TV channel would be discussing it in that way. Would you make of that?
I didn't see the pre-match, but I would be inclined to agree with your analysis of that. Like, for me, I know there's been a ton of conjecture, and like you said in your pre-match team announcement, Paul, that it was really hot and it seemed like it was almost imminent. And then these comments came from somebody closer to Eddie Howe that talk of a deal being done was premature. But my honest gut feeling is there's definitely something in this for me, right? I really do feel like the club and him are probably close, but a man of his stature and given what he's done, he'd be quite within his rights to say, these are the things that I need in order for me to take the job. Some of those are going to be, what's the budget I'm going to have, right? How much autonomy do I have as the head coach if it is going to be under a director of football or a sporting director? And I think there's also something in the fact that Dominic Mackay has left his role, or is going to be leaving his role early with Scottish Rugby to come in to finalise the appointment. I feel like that's his way of putting his stamp on the club as the new incoming CEO and basically taking the reins with Law, hopefully taking more of a back seat to get Howe appointed. At this stage, Paul, I'd be absolutely shocked if it's not Howe, and I'd be devastated if it's not, because just having watched some videos of him, I watched the thing he did with Gary Lineker a few years ago, and just the more I listened to him, I was just thinking to myself, oh my word, he would just be fantastic for a club like us. The style of football he would play, the way he manages his players. Here's the one question Lineker asked him, is like, do you care if your players like you or not? And he was like, no, not really, but I hope they understand that I'm here for them. I'm here to push them. I'm here to make them better. And hopefully through that, they can respect me. And that's just the more I listen to him, I really, really do hope that he is the man for the job.
Declan, what did you make of the discussion before the game? And where do you stand on I almost see it, I said this yesterday, I almost see it as all like short-term versus long-term. It might be short-termism again, and we've talked about the pitfalls of that, and we've seen it with Brendan Rodgers, but next season is massive, and I think giving us the best chance to succeed is with Eddie Howe next season. So what do you make of it?
I think on the Celtic TV pre-match talking about it, something that we've been clear to see all season has been Pravda from the club propaganda, if you will say, talking about stuff that, isn't in any relation to the fans or how we are feeling. So the fact they are mentioning it on official club channels, if it wasn't needing done, I would find that very strange. I know last week Gordon Strachan was a bit dismissive of it. I'm sure his laddie is quite in the know about what's happening, and Gavin, but I don't think they would be mentioning it this week, because it would just make us look even more silly. But I think he would be the perfect appointment for Celtic. On what's happened in the week, yeah, there probably is that bit of worry from the club's side that, again, we're maybe going to get burned like we did with Brendan Rodgers after 2.5, 3 years, and Howe will leave and go with his backroom team. I don't know. I don't know if Eddie Howe would be in the same character as Brendan Rodgers to do that to Celtic. Time will only tell with that. But for the point that we're in just now, we're in a mess. We can all see that we're in a mess. And I think Eddie Howe is the man to sort that mess. I think he's a man who could attract players to Celtic Park. I think he's a man who could further develop players at Celtic. So I think we need him more than he needs us at this point in time.
Mm.
And that's why I think we just need to do anything we can to get the deal over the line. There is some other guys maybe out there in the shortlist that could possibly do a job. I know Favre, the former Dortmund manager's been linked, but I think at this point in time, how close it's been and how needing it is, to me, I think we just need to get him in the door. The other stuff we can iron out as we continue to go on. But next season is massive, and we can't just pause here and think to ourselves, okay, it's okay getting the structure in place. I understand that. I've been calling out for that for a long time, but that can be something that's worked on. If you're getting the chance at a really good manager, I think it's worth the risk to go short term again, and then try and iron out the other wee problems that you've got in that internally, than try and do it at this point if it's a sticking point in the negotiations. But I think he's definitely the man for us.
I think so. Sorry, Chris. I'll let you come in a minute. I just want to say on what Declan's covered there. The more I think about it, the more thought I give to it. I think Eddie Howe is the number one outstanding candidate. So if we lose out on him, who do we go to? I know there's talk of Lucien Favre and stuff, but I don't know how much is in that. And I think there's some other candidates there who would be much more of a risk than Eddie Howe. So if we were to bring in, say, Fergal Harkonnen along with him, Enzo Maresca, that to me is a much bigger risk.
Yeah.
And again, with next season having so much riding on it in terms of Champions League qualification, surely we can find a happy medium in between all the restructuring happening right now and getting the number one candidate for the job.
Yeah, for me, Paul, I'd much rather the short-term risk that you bring in Howe, and maybe you don't get your ideal candidate for director of football or sporting director if that happens to be a Fergal Harkin. If he wants to bring in Richard Hughes, let him do it. Because for me, if we could get 3 or 4 years from Eddie Howe, and he's a man who's extremely committed, like I just don't get the impression he would pull a Brendan Rodgers. Number one, Eddie Howe's not a Celtic fan like Brendan Rodgers was. So, and you would think the opposite would be true. You'd want to stay and see out your contract and finish the job. But I'd be willing to have the short-term risk because honestly, Paul, if Rangers make the Champions League this year and they get that financial investment, and they win the league next year and they get the automatic financial investment, that you could forget any financial advantage we ever had over them, because it would be gone. So I think the short term, getting the right man and getting us back on track quickly, I'd be willing to take the risk of no potentially having that right structure. And one other thing I wanted to say, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, Paul, was John Kennedy could win the last 2 Celtic Rangers games, and every game to the end of the season, he is not getting the job. He's not even going to be a candidate for the job, because you're just creating an environment like we've done before, where you're just appointing people just because they've had short-term success. That is not what is needed. We need a major overhaul, and it has to start with a really high caliber manager or coach if we're going with this, director of football. Mm-hmm. So Kennedy's never getting the job in my eyes.
Paul, can I just add on to just what Chris was saying there as well? I think with a short-term view, I think what we need to remember as well, but when Brendan did leave, we got a very tasty financial package off Leicester for doing that,
exactly.
£9 million odd. Now, if that does happen again, I hope it doesn't. It's not to say that we can't invest that properly like we should have done the first time round and appoint somebody in the same calibre. That's no disrespect to Neil Lennon, but everybody knew, it was plain in the face to see that he wasn't the same type of a coach as Brendan Rodgers. So if we do go with a short-term version again, at the end of it, if you get Howe in a good contract, you probably will be compensated if he does decide to leave. And again, with the right management at the top of the club, you can still put yourself in a strong enough position that you don't end up back at where we were in February 2019.
Aye, that's something I was saying during the week. Just if Eddie Howe does come in and it's on his terms, if you like, in terms of bringing his own people with him and not the Celtic's chosen director of football or whatever it might be, then it doesn't have to be that it'll unfold the same way that it did when Brendan Rodgers left. The problem that we have now, and the reason we're in this mess, is because the very next appointment after Brendan Rodgers was a disaster. That's what I'm talking about finding a happy medium, something in between, a bridge between making the change now and making the change later. If Eddie Howe comes in and he gives us 3 good years and then he does have to go, you're right to point out that we could make money if there's compensation there for us. Yeah. But also we can get the next appointment right and not make the same mistakes that we did in appointing Neil Lennon. I just want to bring it back to today. It's obviously a good confidence boost to win so comfortably, to play so well, and to get so many goals, Chris. Is there any debate about who the man of the match was?
Nope. Number 27, Moy El-Yunusi. Superb.
Declan?
Yep, pay the £5 million, Paul. Get him in. He was absolutely outstanding. El-Yunusi all day long, 2 brilliant goals, and he was just effective all afternoon. And I think some of the Livy defenders will be having a bit of a sleepless night.
It's a full house for El-Yunusi. I thought he was the best player in the park by a mile today. That's it. Like the video, comment with your own thoughts on the game below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be seeing you shortly for Twitter reactions. Thank you for joining us today.